أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Um, a few announcements before we call Sheikh Ahmad al-Bazzi. Please make sure you clean up after yourself. Please do not have anything to drink or eat in this hall, as we are borrowing it and using it for future purposes. We'd like to keep this place clean. And for future programs as well, please contribute and open your pockets, as it allows us to bring new speakers from places and, you know, allow us to expand our knowledge as well. And with that, I'd like to call up Sheikh Ahmed Bazzi to enlighten us with his wisdom. So please welcome him with the loudest of your salawat. Ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد. For the love of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. And for the love of Sahib al-Asri wa zaman, let's have another loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammadin. Before we begin with tonight's lecture, there was a question that was asked yesterday, and I wanted to just make sure of the answer before I give it. It was about Ayatul Sajda, the verses of sujood. And if someone was to read the verses, one of the four verses, where after which it would be wajib, mandatory to do sujood. Do we have to do sujood on the turba, or can it be on the carpet? Do we have to face qibla? Is there something that we have to say in that sajda? Sayyid Sistani Hafidhahullah, he says, you don't have to face qibla in doing this specific sujood. You don't have to even say anything in the sajda itself. You could just do sujood and that's it. But as per mandatory precaution, you must do sujood on a turba, a leaf, whatever it may be, something that we're allowed to do sujood on from the earth, right? That's just the only difference from yesterday's answer till today, or that's the point that I wanted to make sure of, inshallah ta'ala. Jazakumullah khairan. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. The idea of marja'iyya, my brothers and sisters, following a marja', or the system of marja'iyya rather, is a system that the Shia of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam have adopted for many years. And it's a system that has been taught to us by our Imams alayhimus salam, as you will see. And it's a system that has brought the Shia together and held this religion, and I mean religion in its fullest sense, not just the sect, because this is the religion of Muhammad ibn Abdullah, of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And so it's held this religion together throughout the years. And so you find Shi'ism as a sect, as a branch of Islam, has survived through persecution, killing, death, has survived 1,000 or so years after Al-Khoei al-Kubra and until today. And inshallah, it will continue on. And one of the reasons that it survived, my brothers and sisters, is because of the scholars, the ulama that we have, and specifically following the marja' that knows the ahkam that he has derived from the riwayat, the narrations of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. And so the system, my brothers and sisters, was put in place to bring the Shia together and to provide for the Shia their ahkam, their rulings, and ultimately their teachings. not from the mind of the marja' or the opinion, the subjective opinion of this scholar, rather from the narrations of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam that have been passed on from generation to generation. And although, my brothers and sisters, this system was put in place to bring the Shia together and to give them an umbrella to protect them from those that want to destroy their religion from within or from the outside, you find that marja'iyya is a contentious issue for some reason these days and in the past. And wallahu al-alim, this comes from the natural human tendency to pick sides and to want to belong to a greater group and to want to look at others as others and us as us, and this us versus them mentality. And so you see the Shias on the very system, or in the very system that is supposed to bring them together and protect them, they have differed, picked sides, and ultimately made this system a contentious one and made marja'iyya a contentious topic. And so some have picked sides. Some started to doubt the system itself and said, with all of this tension, why should I get involved? Why should I ask about the marja' that I must follow? Why don't I find an alternative option? So others turned to alternative options. Some went to neo-akhbarism, which is something that we may talk about in the upcoming nights. Some said willful blindness is the best way. Passive reliance is the best way. Khalas, what I see my parents doing, I'll do, and I won't ask, and I won't be diligent. Why should I? Why should I? Because if I'm diligent, I'm going to get into what we call in Arabic the ma'ma, the problematic issues, and I'm going to put myself in this contentious storm of ideas. So why should I ask? And so tonight, my brothers and sisters, we want to know the reality of this system, and we want to ask a question. Why marja'iyya? Why do I follow fuqaha, ulama? And I'm not here talking about a specific scholar or a specific side, specific hawza. No. The idea as a whole. Why the system of marja'iyya? That's the first question that we want to answer. What is the proof that we have that our scholars use to say that the system of marja'iyya is the system that we must follow during the time of ghaibah? That's the first question we want to answer. The second question is, when we look around the world today, we find many different scholars, and they differ in opinion on select issues. So when I have differing opinions on select issues, what is my responsibility as a Shia Muslim in that situation? Do I just choose blindly to follow marja' A over marja' B? Do I find the best path, the precautious path between the two? Or is there something else? So we're going to answer these two questions, my brothers and sisters, inshaAllah, tonight, with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So the first question, what is the proof for marja'iyya? What is the proof that our ulama use to say that the concept of marja'iyya, the system of marja'iyya, is the best system, the only system that we have during the time of ghaibah? Here, my brothers and sisters, we will use two types of proof. Anytime our ulama want to discuss a topic, prove something to be true and correct in accordance to what Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam want, they look at it from two different angles. They say, number one, is there a aqli proof, an intellectual proof, a logical proof for this thing, whatever it may be that we're trying to prove? If so, biha wa ni'mat, great. What about the riwayat? Are there narrations that speak about this concept and point us in the right direction? And so that's what we're going to do. Number one, the logical proof for marja'iyya. Let's begin together. In the world around us today, my brothers and sisters, or in the world that we live in, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made certain things mandatory on us and has made certain things haram on us and has given us a set way of life that He wants us to live by. How do we know this? We know this because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't create us for no reason. and that there's a higher cause. And alongside me, there are people of other religions. There are people that have no religion, no adherence whatsoever. And I myself have a question that I must ask myself, why am I here? And what's my obligation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created me for? So I know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me commandments, and I must know what those commandments are. So I have certainty that God has commanded me and told me to obey and to do and to worship. Now the question is how? How do I worship this God that created me for a wisdom, for a reason? Here, my brothers and sisters, we have a few options in front of us. After we know that Islam is the right religion and that there is revelation, we have a few options. Either I myself look in the riwayat, I myself look in the Quran, look in their traditions, and I arrive at the conclusion as to how to pray, how to fast, how to do Hajj, and whatnot. That's the first option. That I take it upon myself to research, to learn, and ultimately arrive at the conclusion or arrive at the ahkam myself, the rulings. Number one. Number two, there's another option, is that I follow a scholar that has done the research and I see what he says, and ultimately I take what he's the natija, the result, and I implement it. That's what we call taqleed. The third option is no, I find the most precautious route. What do I mean I find the most precautious route? I have this thing called salat, prayers. I don't know, is salat mandatory? Or is it something that God just likes that I do? Mustahab, recommended, but it's not something mandatory that I must do. The most precautious route in this case would be to pray. Because if it was mandatory, I prayed. And if it was recommended, then I did something extra, wassalam. It's not hurtful to me. That's the most precautious route. If there is, for example, if there is a possibility that smoking is haram, there's a possibility that smoking is halal, I'm not sure. The most precautious route would be not to smoke in this case. That's the third option. So I have these three options in front of me. And there's no fourth or fifth option. Either I do the research myself, either I follow someone that has done the research and I take the results and implement them, or I take the most precautious route and I don't necessarily do the research, but I say, ultimately, this is the most precautious route. In every possibility, any ihtimal, any possibility that there is, I'm doing what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from me. These are the three possibilities in front of me. And now I want to see which is the most viable possibility out of the three for the ummah, each and every one in the ummah, in the nation. As for the first option, it would mean that each and every one of us picks themselves up and goes to either Qum or Najaf and studies the many different Islamic sciences that one must study to arrive at al-ahkam al-shar'iyya, the rulings. You have to pick yourself up, go to Najaf, quit your jobs, men and women, quit your jobs and go to Najaf, go to Qum, learn Arabic. After you've learned Arabic, jazakumullah khairan, you just started. That's the hardest hurdle. Then you have to learn logic. You may have to learn some falsafa, philosophy. You have that under your belt, great. Now we have to learn rijal, the authentication of hadith. You have to learn usul, fiqh, jurisprudence. 20, 30, 40 years until you're able to derive the ahkam from the books. How practical is that solution? Where are the engineers? Where are the teachers? Where are the doctors? Society falls apart. Society falls apart. There would be no society anymore. Everyone's in Najaf. Everyone's in Qum. Just sitting all day and reading. Not a practical option. Put that one aside. It doesn't work. Let's go to the third option. No, we're going to be precautious in everything. If there's a possibility that something is wajib, even if I'm not sure, I consider it to be wajib. If there's a possibility that something is haram, I consider it to be haram. That is the most precautious method. At first thought, that makes sense. Let me be precautious. Let me be precautious. But when you delve into it more, no, it can't work. Why? Because there are some things that you don't know. Could be halal, could be haram, could be wajib. As in one thing, such as Salat al-Jumu'ah, can be wajib and can be haram in itself to pray during the time of ghaibah. You tell me, has that happened? I'll tell you, yes. There were some scholars, old scholars, that considered Salat al-Jumu'ah to be haram during the time of ghaibah. And some scholars that considered Salat al-Jumu'ah to be halal. Or rather, wajib, mandatory. So if you have both options that are possible, either something is haram or something wajib, how do you take the most precautious route? If you're looking at it as haram, then you must refrain from it. And if you're looking at it as potentially wajib, mandatory, then you must do it. The two precautious routes don't intersect, rather they contradict each other. And so, there are many situations where precaution cannot be done. And it would be impossible to be precautious in said circumstances. And so precaution is out of the picture because in many cases it's impossible. In many cases, it's impossible. And so the only viable option, my brothers and sisters, during the time of ghaibah is to find the scholar that has put in the effort, has learned the religion away from biases, away from their own subjective opinions, and have come to you and said, Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam want from us this. And here's the riwayah. قال الصادق قال الباقر. And here's the proof. By following the marja', my brothers and sisters, we are following in the footsteps of the intellectuals that have come before us and the intellectuals that are going to come after us, as we call it, Siratul Uqala. What does that mean? It's only logical. It's only logical. And it's the way of the intellectuals that the ignorant person goes back to the one who knows and follows their verdict on the matter in question, even if that matter in question is religion. As long as the expert is going back to the tradition of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam and giving you what Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam want in the matter in question. And so out of the three options, the most practical option and the most logical option is taqleed. And that's why when you go to the riwayat, my brothers and sisters, you find Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam train the Shi'as to go back to the ones who know the hadith, understand the hadith, and can apply the hadith. The riwayah says, Abdul Aziz al-Muhtadi came to one of the Imams alayhi salam, and I believe it's Imam al-Rida alayhi salam. He said to him, I don't see you in every circumstance. I'm not able to get to you. I live in a place that's far away. I live in a place that's far away, and I can't get to you all the time and ask you about my ahkam. What should I do? The Imam alayhi salam turns to him and says, خُذْ عَنْ يُونس ibn Abd al-Rahman. Take from Yunus ibn Abd al-Rahman, one of the narrators of hadith. I'm not available. No problem. Go to the one that knows our hadith and he will give you a verdict on the matter in question. Similarly, in the riwayah, it is said a man comes to Al-Imam al-Sadiq. And me and you are going to analyze this hadith, so stay with me. A man comes to Al-Imam al-Sadiq and he says to him, I want to know the hadith. I want to learn the hadith. I want to ask about the hadith. I want to know my wajib. I want to know what's haram. I want to know my taklif. What should I do? And so the Imam alayhi salam, you know what he says? He says, خُذْ مِنْ هَذَا الْجَالِسِ. You want to know our hadith? Go to that man who is sitting there and ask him. Rawi says, I looked and I asked, who's that man? They said, this man is Zurara ibn A'yan, one of the most famous narrators of hadith of Ali Muhammad alayhi salam. Now I want to analyze me and you. Me and you, we're going to analyze. The Imam alayhi salam is present. The Imam is present in the masjid. And he says, if you want to know our hadith, go to our narrators, go to our companions. Let me ask you a question. If the Imam was in front of you and you asked him, what should I do in this situation? And he gives you a verdict. He says, this is halal. Do you have certainty, yaqeen, qata', that this is halal? Absolutely. Of course, this is the Imam that's telling you. What the Imam is telling you is in Al-Lawh al-Mahfuz. It's written with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I go to Zurara ibn A'yan, the narrator that the Imam pointed me to, and I ask him, what's the verdict on this matter? Do I have absolute certainty that this verdict that Zurara gave me is written in Al-Lawh al-Mahfuz and Allah? Think about it. No? Listen, no? No problem. خليك معي شوي. No problem. Me and you are going to analyze. I went to Zurara. I asked him, Zurara, what's the hukum on this matter? He says, there's a hadith that I remember. The Imam said 1, 2, 3, and 4. Am I absolutely certain that what Zurara gave me as a hukum was written by God in Al-Lawh al-Mahfuz? Is it the same as the words of the Imam? No. But even with that, the Imam alayhi salam said, go to Zurara. Go to Zurara. For the Shi'as, it's as if the Imam is saying, the Shi'as will have a time where the Imam is not present. Let me train them from now to take from the narrators of hadith. There's going to come a time where the Shi'as are not going to have the Imam. That possibility of error will not destroy the religion, nor will it dilute the truth. That possibility of error in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is excused for when the Shi'as don't have their Imam amongst them. And this is the way of the uqala, the intellectuals. This is how we live our lives. Not all of the news that we get is 100% certain, yet we base our lives on it. And Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam told us, in these circumstances, you're able to depend on this news, even if it's a 95 or 98% certainty that it is exactly what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from you in that situation. Even with this, the Imam alayhi salam told them, go to Zurara. Go to the ones that know the hadith. We're going to go further. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih. Rasulullah himself said, the riwayah is narrated by Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Rasulullah himself said, there will be a time, or rather, throughout time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give this religion to individuals that are just. And they will hold this religion and pass it on generation to generation. And they will protect this religion from those that want to destroy it from within or from outside. And will protect this religion from being tampered with. These individuals, my brothers and sisters, the riwayah says, al-udul, the just individuals. The riwayah didn't say the Imam, nor did it say the prophets. Just individuals. And wallahu al-alim, some ulama say that's a'am. That is the Imam, the prophet, and the scholar. Because just individual also pertains to and applies to the scholar himself. The marja' of the time is the protector of the religion, in the words of the one who came down with the religion, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Salli ala Muhammadin wa alihi. And many other ahadith, and I'll give you this last one because the riwayat of Ahlul Bayt are nur. The words of Ahlul Bayt are nur. In Rijal al-Najashi, one of the great books of Rijal, authentication of hadith, he narrates this hadith. He says, in a hadith, Al-Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam looks at Abban ibn Taghlib, one of the great narrators of hadith, companions of the Imam, and he says, Ujlus fil masjid waftin nas. Sit inside the masjid and give fatawa to the people. He says, iftin nas. This word fatwa was not just created 200 years ago. Imam Sadiq said fatwa. not Ahmad Bazzi. Imam al-Sadiq said, sit inside the masjid and give fatawa to the people. For I love to see amongst my Shia the likes of you. The concept of marji'iyya, my brothers and sisters, is not something we created during political turmoil. Now or later or before, no. It's something that the Imams alayhimus pointed us in the direction to and train the Shi'as to adopt. And so after the ghaibah of the Imam, they know where to go. And that is to the narrators of hadith and ultimately the maraja. May Allah bless them all and have mercy on those that passed. The idea of marji'iyya, my brothers and sisters, is rooted in the hadith. And so if somebody comes and says, no, I want to take from the hadith and I'll arrive at my conclusion, I'll tell him, no problem. If you apply yourself correctly, you will get to marji'iyya. You will get to the system that the Imams alayhimus put in place if you apply yourself correctly. You're going to go in a big circle and arrive at square one. If you read the narrations of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam and apply yourself correctly, or their love, sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The second question, طيب, in the time of ghaibah, we look and we see that there's different opinions out there. Some ulama say that the way that we choose or the way that we know that the month has started or the month has ended is by looking at the moon in your own city. Some ulama say that you look in your own city and other cities as well, as long as the night overlaps between your city and their city. Some ulama say if it's seen anywhere in the world, the moon is seen anywhere in the world, خلاص, iftar. As long as it's seen with your eye, not with a telescope. And there's a difference of opinion on the matter, yes? And so now the question is, in a time where our ulama have differed, what's my responsibility? The answer, my brothers and sisters, is here. Let me give you an example. Let's assume I have chronic head pain. And so I picked myself up and I went to the doctor. The doctor said, Ahmad, I'm going to send you for some tests. And let's see what's going on with you. He sends me for some tests. And he sees, وَالْعِيَاذ بِاللَّهِ, I have a big tumor on my brain. وَالْعِيَاذ بِاللَّهِ دَفَعَ اللَّهُ الْبَلَاءَ عَنَّا جَمِيعًا. Cancer, وَالْعِيَاذ بِاللَّهِ. He says, this cancer is malignant, problematic, and you might die. You need a surgery. And this surgery is a very special case. Very special case. Only 3 scholars, or rather 3 doctors, surgeons, are able to perform this type of surgery. Their names are 1 to A, B, C, D, whatever. Yes? Now I need to choose the doctor to perform this surgery. Does it make sense to just choose randomly one of the 3 doctors if the case is life and death? Or should there be a vetting process? Should I look at these 3 surgeons, maybe look at their qualifications, the amount of experience they had, the amount of time they studied, and then on accordance to that, choose the correct surgeon in the case? Logically, no one will tell me to randomly choose. No one will say that's the logical way to do things, especially that the other side, the risk is high. The risk is extremely high. And so it's only logical that you ask and see what are the qualifications of these individuals. All of the different qualifications and factors that allow you to choose one over the other, they ultimately boil down to one thing. Who was the best at their craft? Who was the best surgeon? And ultimately, who's the most knowledgeable in the field and can apply himself in that knowledge best? In the very same way, my brothers and sisters, in the time of ghaibah, when you have different opinions out there from different scholars who are actually mujtahideen and have the qualifications to derive the ahkam, the rulings from the riwayat and present them to you, you find them differing. They're all looking at the same books. So you ask yourself, which one do I follow? The answer is the most knowledgeable of these scholars, the same way that I looked at the different surgeons and I asked myself, who do I go to? The most knowledgeable surgeon. Great, that's logical, no problem. Did Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam allude to this idea? Yes, they did. The riwayah says, Al-Imam al-Sadiq or al-Baqir, he says, if two individuals, sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, if you have a case where two individuals have differed on a ruling in a specific case, let's say two people, they differ on whether this land is his or his. So they go to the court, the Islamic court, and they say, I believe this land is mine. And the other says, I believe this land is mine. And they've differed. We have a case now. We go to the judge. Who is the judge in an Islamic court? The faqih, the scholar, the one that knows Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam's rulings and applies them in the matter in question. They each go to a scholar, and these two scholars then differ. The scholars themselves differ on who the land belongs to. So they differed in applying the ahkam of Ahlul Bayt in the specific issue at hand. Yes? This is the Imam's situation. This is the Imam alayhi salam. He's presenting this as a situation and telling you what to do in such a case. So they went to the first judge and he said, the land is for you. They went to the second judge, let's say, and that second judge said the land is for him. So they differed. The Imam alayhi salam says, in such a situation, what do? He says, look and see who is the most religious of the two, who has more taqwa out of the two, who is the most just of the two, and who is the most knowledgeable of the two. If you find the most knowledgeable amongst them, take their ruling. Tayyib, oh Imam, we have another ruling there. He says, as for the other, don't even look at it. Don't even look at the other ruling. The defining factor is who is most knowledgeable amongst the two. So the system, my brothers and sisters, is not made up in the riwayat, my brothers and sisters. Latif, now you come and tell me, but I don't know who the most knowledgeable person is. I don't know who the most knowledgeable of the maraja are. How am I to know? I live in New York. I live here in the West, wherever I may be. I work as such and such, and I don't have any expertise on the matter. Is it a matter of opinion? Maybe I read the ahkam of marja' A. Wallah, it makes sense to me. Is that enough? No. Our ulama, they say, in the case of knowing who the most knowledgeable marja' is, you must go back to the scholars themselves, and they will point you into the right direction. In the same way that I want to know who the most knowledgeable surgeon is, who's the most has most expertise amongst the three surgeons in the example that I gave. Who do I go to know who is the best surgeon out of the three? Other surgeons, other doctors, people of that craft that can distinguish the most knowledgeable or the better surgeon out of the two or three. And so our ulama, they say, go to Ahlul Khibra or Ahlul Khibra, those that have this expertise, who are able to distinguish between the knowledgeable and the not knowledgeable, and are able to distinguish between two knowledgeable individuals and tell you this one is more knowledgeable than the other. How do they do that? They go back and they ask, Sayyidina, when you gave this hukum, what were you depending on? He says, this is my proof, here it is. He goes to the other, Shaykhna, when you gave the opposite hukum altogether, what were you depending on? He says, these riwayat, for example, this proof right here. This individual, because he has expertise, he knows the ahkam and knows usul, knows fiqh, knows how to apply these laws. Not a marja' himself, but knows how to apply them. He's able to distinguish and say, this is more in accordance to what Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam preach in the riwayat. This proof, although strong, but this one is stronger. Ahlul Khibra, those of expertise of our ulama, are able to tell you who is the most knowledgeable and who is not. It's not an issue of politics, my brothers and sisters, nor is it an issue of opinion and subjectivity. No. Objectively, who is the one that I follow? If it's X marja', then I follow him. If it's Z marja', whoever it may be, I follow him. Whether he's from the country that I come from or not. Whether he's old or young. Politically based, has a political agenda or as involved in politics or not. These issues don't play a role. Don't play a role at all. What plays a role is knowing the hadith of Ali Muhammad. This is what plays a role. And understanding these hadith and being able to apply this hadith. And that's why when you go to the ulama and ask them, what does most knowledgeable actually mean when it comes to the marja'? What does it mean to be the most knowledgeable? They say this person is able to take the hadith and apply it. Take the usul and apply it to the furu'a, as they say. They are able to apply. They know of the ahadith in the matter in question, the many ahadith that pertain to the issue, whatever it may be, Salat al-Jumu'ah, for example. They know the different ahadith that are able to point you into the right direction when it comes to the hukum of this issue. And lastly, they are precautious in giving a fatwa. These three factors. These three factors. If they are at the highest levels, then you have the most knowledgeable marja'. And that is how we decipher and distinguish the most knowledgeable of our grand scholars from the not most knowledgeable of our grand scholars, although he is a grand scholar in his own right. The system, my brothers and sisters, of marja'iyya is very logical and found in the riwayat of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. And the best system for the time, and is the system that Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam established and wanted us to apply during this time. And it is the system that ultimately protects this religion from generation to generation. And that's why 1,400 years later, we still have the religion in front of us and we still apply it. It's because of the sacrifices of those scholars, my brothers and sisters. And so now you can ask me one last question and then we'll end for today. How do I give back? How do I show appreciation for these sacrifices? Read the ahkam. Each and every one of you has a computer in their pocket. You are able to go in a split second and learn your hukum. They're translated into English. You're able to read and learn your ahkam. To show appreciation for the sacrifices, utilize what was sacrificed for. What the arwah, the souls were sacrificed for. And it is these ahkam. Learn your religion, my brothers and sisters, for there's no excuse anymore. Each and every one of us has the sources right in front of them. Number one. Number two, go back to the scholar. Ask the scholar and learn from the scholar that you have with you. Those two things, my brothers and sisters, if we do them, we have truly given back to our ulama. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. أسأله تعالى أن يعفو عنا ويغفر لنا ويرحمنا ويتوب علينا. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our amal, to accept our salat, accept our siyam, our fasting, to make us from those who truly learn the religion and apply it correctly, and to make us from those who appreciate our ulama and our scholars. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the reappearance of Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman, to have him amongst us, so we can ask him and know the truth from him, insha'Allah, just as our scholars present us the truth. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from the supporters of Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. Let's recite Surah Al-Fatiha lil-mu'mineen wal-mu'minat wal-ulama wal-fuqaha wal-shuhada. Before it, aloud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
السلام عليك يا مولانا يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام على الحسن والحسين سيد شباب أهل الجنة. السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين زين العابدين. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الباقر علم النبيين. السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق. السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر الكاظم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء. السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء. السلطان يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى الرضا. السلام عليك يا فاطمة المعصومه ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الجواد. السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد الحادي. السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي العسكري. السلام عليك يا حجة بن الحسن القائم المهدي. أجل الله تعالى فرجه وسهل الله مخرجه. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.